Good morning, Van.
Morning.
Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming in. All right, so the purpose of today's appointment is to go over what we found after your exam last week. So if you remember, what we did was we did the full chiropractic examination. We checked your spine, did some range of motion tests, did some muscle palpation. We also did some muscle testing and some x-rays. So I'm going to go over the findings for all those things for you today, and including showing you your x-rays. But before I show you those, I want to explain a few things first.
Okay.
So I remember you came in and you were talking about how you were having headaches and neck pain, and it started when you were in high school, and it just kind of got worse from there. So is there anything specifically that those headaches keep you from being able to do?
Study and working out, mostly.
Okay, so those are definitely things that we want to address during our care. And so we'll talk about our goals for your care at the end of this, but I definitely want to have those in mind as we go forward. All right, so I want to show you this. This is what our spine looks like. So if I'm looking at you this way, I want to see a nice straight spine, and I don't want to see it like curving or have any twists and turns in it. I want it to be nice and straight. If I'm looking at it from the side, like if I'm looking at you this way, I want to see 3 nice even curves. And the reason for that is because it will give the spine some flexibility and also act as a shock absorber during motion and any type of movement throughout our lives. So each one of these vertebrae are independently moving, and between each vertebrae, a nerve actually comes out. So that's what these yellow little rubber things actually represent. So your brain sits right here and actually exits into your spinal cord and comes out of the vertebrae and supplies all the cells, tissues, and organs in your body. So your brain controls everything in your body, and if there's any misalignment or mispositioning of these vertebrae, we get pressure on those nerves as they exit the spine. So if I took the nerves to your heart and I cut it right now, what do you think would happen to your heart?
Would it stop beating?
Yeah, it would stop working. So what if I just put a little bit of pressure on that nerve instead over time? Do you think it would work better or worse?
Worse.
Worse, exactly. So as chiropractors, we're trained to identify where those misalignments are, or as we call them, vertebral subluxations. So we're taught to analyze, identify, and correct those subluxations. So in doing so, we release the pressure on the nerve and allow the brain to communicate with the body even better. So what our goal is to take pressure and stress off of your spinal cord and allow your body to function on its own more optimally. Do you have any questions about that?
Nope.
Perfect. All right, so let's get into the x-rays. So before we show you your x-rays, I just want to show you what we're looking for when we look at these x-rays. So this is an example of what we want to see. A nice even 45-degree curve coming up the spine and nice open spaces between these top 2 bones. And the reason for that, your brain stem sits here, and it's a very important part of your brain because it controls all of your autonomic functions. So your breathing, your heart rate, all that stuff that you're not thinking about is actually being controlled in this area here. So if we start to lose that space, it actually put pressure on that area, and we start to get things like high blood pressure, maybe even some asthma symptoms, things like that. So we want to make sure there's a good space and a nice even curve. And the reason for that curve is because we want our head to be sitting right over our shoulders. So we want our ear to be sitting right over our shoulders, and that allows it to just sit in a nice even place where it's not putting too much forward flexion. And I'll show you what that actually does. So if my neck is sitting right over if my head is sitting right over my shoulders like this, I can hold this up all day, right? So I want you to try that.
Like that?
Yeah, so hold it up just like this. All right, so is that easy or hard?
It's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
So what if you start to lose the curve in your neck and the head starts to come forward like this? Is that getting easier or harder to hold up?
Harder.
Harder, right? So the further out the head is from the shoulders, the harder our neck has to work to hold it up. So this is when we start to see a loss of curve here. This is what we call stage 1 degeneration. So you can see that the curve is starting to straighten out in the spine. We're starting to lose that springiness. This is a great time to seek chiropractic care because this is when we can have the most effect. It's easier to correct it at this stage. If it's left like that for too long and chronically, we start to see it move into stage 2. You can see here we've kind of started to change direction of the curve. It's almost started to reverse a little bit. So that's when we start to see a lot of issues when people start to come into the chiropractor complaining of the headaches and neck pain. Obviously, and then moving forward, we're starting to see arthritic changes in the spine, and this is, if it gets so bad, this is probably 10 to 15 years of untreated neck pain. We start to see degeneration of the vertebrae themselves, a lot of arthritic buildup in here, and at that point, we're not going to be able to affect too much change. So let's go ahead and look at your x-rays. So this is your x-ray from the other day. This is just the side of your neck. So what do you see? Do you see curve or no curve?
No curve.
No curve. So what I'm seeing is not only is there no curve, but there's actually a slight reversal of the curve here. So we're kind of getting into the stage 2 area. So what does that mean for you? It means that we're going to need to do a little bit more involved care plan. So this has been going on for a long time, probably the last 8 years since you told me it started in high school. It might have even started a little bit before that and you weren't getting the symptoms until then. But so that means we're going to need to see you for a couple times a week. And the reason for that frequency is we need to get your body kind of remembering where it needs to be. So we also need to strengthen all of these muscles back here to get your head pulled back over your shoulders. So if you're going to run a marathon, do you just show up the day of the marathon and run it?
No.
No. So we want to get you ready to run that marathon. So in addition to those appointments of getting adjusted, we're also going to give you some home care. And the reason both of those things are so important is because we really need to retrain your body of where it needs to be. And also, like I said, we're going to get your body back in shape to run that marathon of life. So there's a couple things you might experience as we start care. You might experience some soreness and some stiffness after the adjustments. And the reason for that is, like I said, this has been going on for quite a long time. And so, if you go to the gym and you work out for the first time in a long time, you're kind of sore afterwards, right? Those muscles that you haven't used in a while are getting used again. So that's something that I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. We just want to be aware of that. And if you are experiencing any symptoms after our adjustments, please let me know because we want to be tracking those and being aware of that. But definitely we want to be aware of what's going on there. Do you have any other questions for me concerning your x-rays?
Nope. That all makes sense.
Okay, great. And so with those home out exercises, I've put together kind of a take-home packet for you. So it's got all of your x-rays, or all of your exercises, and there's pictures of what you need to do, explanations of everything, and how frequent you're going to want to do those. So we're going to run through those before you leave, but that way if you have any questions at home, you have all the resources there for you.
Okay.
All right. And so our goals for you as far as the next 6 weeks. We talked about wanting to get those headaches and the neck pain decreased, but not only do we want to get them decreased, we want to see them happening less frequently, but we also want to see the severity going down. So what I would love from you is if you could when you are experiencing those symptoms, if you could keep a journal and just write down when you had the headache and how bad it was, just letting me know, all it is out of a 10 scale, how bad is it? 10 being the worst, 1 being is just a little bit of like a little twitch kind of thing. But so that way we're keeping track of when you're having those headaches and how bad they are, so we can also see how your care is going, have another measure of that. Like I said, I want to get you exercising more and get you have that energy to do that after you've been studying for a long time. So if there's no more questions from me, I think we're going to get you adjusted today and we'll get you on the path of healing.
Yay.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Great job.